Donald Cerrone had a chance to make all sorts of UFC history on Saturday in the UFC Fight Night 118 main event. Unfortunately for him, Darren Till had other plans. Till 1601 MMA, 401 UFC prevented Cerrone 3210 MMA, 197 UFC from tying the all-time UFC wins record in the UFC Fight Pass streamed welterweight headliner at Ergo Arena in Gdansk, Poland, scoring a one-sided first-round TKO victory to add to his undefeated record. The Brit is quickly climbing the ladder of longest streaks without a loss among UFC fighters, and his performance highlighted an 11-bout card. For more on the numbers in the UFC's second fight card in Poland, check below for 35 post-event facts to come out of UFC Fight Night 118. General the Reebok athlete outfitting payout for the event totaled $100,000. Debuting fighters went 33 at the event. Till, Jan Blachowicz, Brian Kelleher and Damian Staszak earned $50,000 UFC Fight Night 118 Fight Night bonuses. UFC Fight Night 118 drew an announced attendance of 11,138 for a live gate of $677,000. Betting favorites went 83 on the card. Total fight time for the 11-bout card was 21,834. Main card. Till's 17-fight undefeated streak in MMA competition is fifth longest among active UFC fighters behind Khabib Nurmagomedov 24, Jimmy Rivera 20, Chris Cyborg and Justin Gaethje 18. Till has earned 12 of his 16 career victories by stoppage. Till has earned both of his stoppage UFC victories by knockout. Cerrone fell to 43 since he moved up to the UFC welterweight division in February 2015. Cerrone suffered his third consecutive loss to extend the longest skid of his career. He hasn't earned a victory since December. Cerrone has suffered both of his UFC welterweight stoppage victories by knockout. Karolina Kowalkiewicz 112 MMA, 42 UFC has all four of her UFC victories by decision. She hasn't earned a stoppage since May 2014. Blachowicz 207 MMA, 34 UFC earned his first submission victory since May 21, 2011, a span of 2,345 days, more than 6 years and 11 fights. Devin Clark 82 MMA, 22 UFC suffered the first submission loss of his career. Oscar Piechota 1001 MMA, 10 UFC earned the first decision victory of his career. Jonathan Wilson 73 MMA, 13 UFC suffered his third consecutive loss after starting his career on a 7-fight winning streak. He hasn't earned a victory since August 2015. Wilson was unsuccessful in his UFC middleweight debut. Preliminary card margin held 237 MMA, 13 UFC snapped the first 3-fight losing skid of his career and earned his first victory since May 2016. Nasrat Haqparast 82 MMA, 01 UFC had his 8-fight winning streak snapped for his first defeat since December 2012. Haqparast suffered the first decision loss of his career. Kelleher 188 MMA, 21 UFC has earned 15 of his 18 career victories by stoppage. That includes both of his UFC wins. Staszak 105 MMA, 23 UFC suffered the first knockout loss of his career. Ramazan Emeev 163 MMA, 10 UFC improved to 131 in his past 14 fights. He hasn't suffered a loss since September 2014. Sam Alvey 3110 MMA, 85 UFC has suffered 8 of his 10 career losses by decision. Andre Fili 175 MMA, 54 UFC has alternated wins and losses over his nin-fight UFC career. Artem Lobov 13,141 MMA, 24 UFC fell to 561 in his past 12 career fights. Lobov has suffered 11 of his 14 career losses by decision. That includes all 4 of his UFC defeats. Aspen Ladd 60 MMA, 10 UFC has earned 5 of her 6 career victories by stoppage. Lena Landsberg 73 MMA, 12 UFC has suffered all 3 of her career losses by knockout. Josh Emmett 121 MMA, 31 UFC was successful in his UFC featherweight debut. Emmett has earned all 3 of his UFC victories by decision. Emmett's 4 knockdowns are tied for third most in a UFC fight. Only Jeremy Stevens 6 at UFC 215 and Forrest Petz 5 at UFC Fight Night 6 have scored more knockdowns in a fight. Emmett's 4 knockdowns in a round mark the new single-fight UFC record. Felipe Arantes 1891 MMA, 551 UFC was unsuccessful in his return to the UFC featherweight division. Arantes has suffered 7 of his 9 career losses by decision. That includes all 5 of his UFC defeats. For complete coverage of UFC Fight Night 118, check out the UFC events section of the site. Fight metric research analyst and live statistics producer Michael Carroll contributed to this story. Follow him on Twitter at @muflipdascript.